heaven. Michael and his angels going forth to war with the dragon. And the dragon warred in his angels, and they prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast down, the old serpent, the one called the devil, and the Satan, he that deceiveth the whole inhabited world. He was cast down to the earth, and his angels with him were cast down.
Consider what that's like. That's like having your kid kidnapped, having him molested, and you could do nothing about it. And then you always wonder, could I have stopped that? Imagine having to live with that. This is how these people become casualties of this war. It destroys their lives. It's not a good thing. There are people who report experiences that seem to give them a higher spiritual revelation. But as you heard from Guy in his talk, that needs to be questioned. I want to show you some other examples of casualties of this cosmic war. I've worked with about 400 abduction experiencers over the past 13 years. What you're going to see here are some of the testimonies I get from these people, from what they've been through. My eyes were shut and I was paralyzed and felt drugged, sort of like one might feel when very drunk, but without any burning or nausea or dizziness. I felt like I was lying in bed on my back. I thought I must be in my bed. I looked to the left, opened my eyes, expected to see my significant other there. He was not. I didn't see my bedroom. Instead, I saw a concrete gray room. The light extended out a little ways, but most everything was in shadow. I could move my head and looked around. I saw 3 grays standing over me. 2 were kind of holding me. Another was moving around some. I was intrigued watching all this. They were not causing pain, but then they molested me some. And then there was some telepathic conversation. For the most part, it was really annoying and irritating, and also it was hard to focus. I tried to move, but I was paralyzed. Eventually, they got out a big drill and stuck it in my mouth. It hurt. I tried to ignore the pain and think about something else, but it really hurt. And I think I eventually blacked out from the pain. Not a good experience. And this person's had to live with this. Not only this one, but numerous experiences like this. Immediately, I felt like I was curled up into a ball, and this force went around me like a box that got tighter and tighter. I thought I was done for sure, but did not fight it. This was all happening very fast. At that point, in my dream still, because these people recall this being like a dream, I felt my body shoot up from the bed at something faster than light speed. For a second, I thought I had been killed. But as soon as I hit the ceiling, I came back down and woke up. These are real testimonies, real experiences that these people report that I work with. I had nightmares of being put on a table and being tortured. I had nightmares of demons telling me that I was crazy, and if I ever told anyone about them, I would be locked up, and they would never let me wake up again. I would wake up with bruises, sometimes bleeding and gasping for breath. I would wake up to people standing around my bed, speaking to me in another language that I knew, or my bed shaking violently even though there was no earthquake. Some of these things get brought up this morning in Mike Tatar's talk. And the thing that bothered me most was my clock on the nightstand turning into a slithering snake with the time in its eyes, and so many more bizarre things. I thought I was losing my mind. About 10 minutes, I felt a strange sensation of being watched. Some creature appeared and forced a needle under my chest bone into my heart. My ears pounded with the sound of my pulse getting slower and slower. The room around me filled with stars as I was losing consciousness. A black cloud filled my vision till I saw nothing but darkness. I passed out. I awoke in a room. It was not very large, but it was made from what looked like aluminum. It was definitely metal, whatever it was. The ceiling arched down to the floor on one side, as though I were in a room on the side of a semi-dome. I knew that I had been here before. There were times previous when I was not alone. I can remember shrieks of pain and terror coming from another room somewhere. It was a female scream. There was no hiding in this place, no corners where one could conceal themselves. They knew where you were. They could sense your presence. Nothing was hidden from them. They could get whatever they wanted out of you, even if it took a while. Not something enjoyable. One night I awoke with a start. My eyes flew open like a close-up in a horror movie when the dead person comes back to life. I was totally awake with a sense that something was very wrong. That sense moved very quickly to terror. I was paralyzed, unable to move anything except my eyes. To my left, over my husband's sleeping body, I could see 3 figures gliding into the room. Their feet, which I couldn't see because a monk-like robe covered them, never touched the ground. They were coming out of a walk-in closet bedroom, and my first thought was, how did they get in here? It was communicated to me in some fashion, I don't know how, that they had come through the large second-story window in the nursery, glided down the hall, gone through the wall into the master bath, and from the bedroom had glided into the closet. I knew they were very, very angry with me for some reason, but I didn't know why. They communicated to me without speaking that they were going to levitate my stiff body, slam me through the window above our bed, and drop me on my head, killing me. They wanted me to know that my husband would be blamed for my death. They violated me sexually. They were all standing around watching this medical experiment. I was scared. I felt helpless, exposed. I was paralyzed. They had no care about how I felt about this. I was nothing to them. It was inhuman. It's terrifying to think that they can access you and do this kind of thing whenever they want. They don't care how you feel about it. There's no appeal. You have no rights. You have no control over it. I guess the worst thing was the feeling of aloneness, a feeling I couldn't relate to or trust anyone. I felt like an outsider to all of humanity, like I was an alien among a world of people and was the only one of my kind. Anytime I tried to trust someone, tell someone what was happening, they would intervene and hurt me or stall me. They would deceive me so I couldn't tell. Being a childhood experiencer, this started when I was 4 and just kept happening over and over again. They would do things to wreck my trust with other people, parents, family, friends, whatever it took. They had me completely believing that I couldn't trust anyone, that if I tried to, it was certain it wouldn't work, and I would be hurt instead, and I really believed that, and that I was totally alone. I gave up. I was lying in bed, kept awake by the barking dogs, when paralysis set in. I was unable to cry out. I could see nothing but a whitish gray, like a mist or fog, although I sensed someone or something was in my room. My wife didn't awaken. The next thing I knew, I was being levitated above my bed. I had the sensation I was being suspended by what felt like a pole inserted into my rectum. By this time, I was alive with terror, but I couldn't scream. Increasingly, I felt as if I were entering a struggle that might even be more than life and death. It might be a struggle for my soul, my essence, or whatever part of me might have reference to the eternal. There are worse things than death, I suspected. So far, the word demon had never been spoken amongst the scientists and doctors who were working with me. Alone at night, I worried about the legendary cunning of demons. At the very least, I was going stark raving mad. This is Whitley Strieber. This is a man who, if you've read his books, he talks about these horrific experiences. But yet, through all he's been through, this man promotes contact with these entities. If you remember his book, Communion, New York Times bestseller years ago, promoting communion with these entities. Does this sound like something you guys are interested in, would like to experience? Hence, the title of my talk, Unholy Communion. These people are casualties of this cosmic war. I say cosmic war because we've laid the foundation through the talks today to show you this is not a physical war. These are entities that are other dimensional with different purposes than we can imagine. Hence, the cosmic war. I've shared with you casualties of that cosmic war. There are effects that these people have that can be recognized. It's termed post-abduction syndrome. The word abduction in PAS refers to alien abduction. PAS does not refer to humans abducting humans, like kidnapping, but only to alien abductions. PAS shares many symptoms with post-traumatic stress disorder, but it is not the same. PAS is based on the symptoms originally listed by alien abduction researcher Bud Hopkins and described in his books Missing Time and Intruders. PAS symptoms include persistent re-experiencing of the traumatic event characterized by flashbacks, persistent avoidance of stimuli associated with the trauma, denial of the event, labeling the event something else, phobic avoidance of areas or situation where the contact occurred, refraining from sleep at the time the contact occurred, emotional reaction to literature, pictures, or videos about alien entities. That was described by that gentleman in the video. That was the trigger that brought all that out in that family, that got them in contact with Dr. John Carpenter to try and find out what was happening to them. Numbing of emotions characterized by inability to feel intimacy, pleasure, or to express emotions. Diminished interest of previously enjoyed activities. May have no expectation of normal life events or normal lifespan. May fear abduction with no return or lengthy abduction. Hypervigilance, exaggerated sterile response, irritability, and/or panic attacks. This is what these people suffer from that go through this experience. This is effects of a person who's a casualty of a horrific experience. Casualties of a cosmic war. I got to give you a foundation on how I got to where I'm getting ready to go with this. I got involved with the UFO phenomenon in 1992. I was on a vacation trip to Alaska to visit my brother in the Air Force. I live in Florida. I would be flying out of Orlando, headed to Anchorage. It's a 10-hour flight to get to Anchorage from Orlando. That's a long time sitting on a plane. I needed something to read, something to, take the time. I didn't have an iPod back then. This was 92. God, am I that old? Okay. I went looking in the little newsstands they have in the airport. I went through the magazines. I didn't see anything that interested me. Went into the book section where they got paperbacks there and, started looking at those. I grew up an avid science fiction reader. I love science fiction. Isaac Asimov, Ray Bradbury, Frederick Paul, these are some of my favorites. I went over to look at the different paperbacks that they had. One caught my attention. And I thought, great, a science fiction book. I'll grab it and take it with me. I picked up the book. I looked at the cover. I thought, it's got to be science fiction. Turned it over, looked at the back side of this book. Read the synopsis on what it was about. Now I'm puzzled. This book reads like a science fiction title, but on the back it said it was real stuff based on real research from what they said was a real event. That book was UFO Crash at Roswell. Of course, we've got to hear the whole thing about the possibility of what the Roswell event could have been, but this book read like a science fiction book to me.